My father hadn't driven a car in 16 years. At 2 in the morning, he drove 4 hours in the rain to reach me, and I didn't even know he'd left the house. He missed everything. I want to be honest about that before I say anything kind about him. He missed my high school graduation. He missed the day I got my apprenticeship. He missed my wedding, and my uncle stood up and gave the toast a father is supposed to give, and I smiled through it because by then I'd had a lot of practice. The reason was always the same. He couldn't get there. When I was 11, my father hit a patch of black ice on a county road with me asleep in the back seat. The car went into a ditch and rolled. I walked away with a broken collarbone. He lost most of the use of his right leg and spent 9 months learning to walk again. He never drove again, not once. My mother drove him everywhere after that and never complained about it where I could hear. Then she died when I was 22, and his world shrank to the size of a living room. He hated the brace they gave him, called it a plastic apology. He stopped going to the pub, then the shops, then anywhere. He had his groceries delivered and watched the same channel for years. Every time something happened in my life, he'd do this thing on the phone where you could hear him doing arithmetic. How far? What a taxi would cost? Whether there was a bus? Then the long pause before he said it was a hell of a distance, wasn't it? I stopped inviting him around the time I got married. Not out of cruelty. It's just easier to expect nothing. My wife went into labor 6 weeks early. I was at work when the call came. By the time I got there, she was on a monitor, and the monitor was doing something the midwives clearly didn't like, and I watched 3 people go from calm to fast in about 10 seconds. They said the baby was in distress. They said theater. They said now. They took her through the double doors and told me to wait, and then I was alone in a corridor at 1:30 in the morning under a strip light that buzzed. I have never been that frightened in my life. I called my father because he was the only number left. I think I just wanted a voice. He picked up on the second ring, which should have told me something. I told him what was happening, and my voice came apart halfway through. He was quiet. Then he said, "Right," and then he hung up. He hung up on me. I sat down on the floor of that corridor with my back against the wall, and I thought, well, there it is, even now. I was still on that floor an hour and a half later when I heard a walking stick on the lino. He was soaked through, hair flat to his head, leaning on that stick so hard his knuckles had gone white. He was breathing like he'd run the whole way. He had his car keys in his hand. His car keys. The old Vauxhall that had sat under a cover in his drive since I was a child, that he paid the insurance on every year and never once started. I asked him how he got there. He said, "I drove 4 hours, in the rain, on motorways, alone, in the dark, with a leg that doesn't work properly, for the first time since the crash that ruined it." He sat down next to me on the floor because he couldn't get back up otherwise, and he took my hand. His was shaking hard. He said, "She'll be all right. You're allowed to be scared." They came out at 4:10. My wife was fine. My son was fine. 3 pounds 11. Furious about it. My father stayed 6 days, sitting outside the special care unit in a plastic chair for hours at a time. On the 4th night, he told me the truth. He said he stopped coming to things because he'd convinced himself I was better off without a father who couldn't get out of a chair. He said he told himself it was a kindness. Then he said, "It wasn't. I was just frightened, and I let being frightened cost me your whole life." He said he could not be late again. They let him hold my son on the 5th day. He was so scared of dropping him that he made me put a pillow under his arm first. He drove home on the Sunday. He drives now, every other weekend, 4 hours in that old Vauxhall. He's never once been late.